do too. We're going live. The Hangout on Air is live. Okay, where's my intro? Here we go. Well, look at you, fangirls and fanboys. Don't you look dashing on this summer night? You're listening to Electric Fancave on electricfeast.com. I am Corrigan Vaughn, and I'm here with my co-host Kristen Lederell to do some fangirling, some ranting, some general discussing. This week we've got the first reviews from the new Ghostbusters movie. We'll let you know if it flopped like the naysayers hoped or met our high expectations. We're going to chat about the Pokemon Go craze seizing the nation, the introduction of Star Trek's first official gay character, and a couple of movie trailers. And most importantly, we're going to discuss why the way women are talked about in the media in 2016 is still stupid AF. We hope you've got a can of Surge in a cozy spot because the time has come for episode 105. 105.
And the crowd goes wild. I don't know how that sound translates over microphone. Probably super obnoxiously, but
yeah, I would imagine. So sorry. Hey, hello. How's it going? I want to, since this episode 105, I want to make a comment on episode.
Ooh, stop. You're super weird. Garbly. You're garbling.
Ooh, garble. Am I coming back? Do I sound like a human?
That sounds better.
Oh, good. That's good. It's episode 105. For those of you who may be wondering, what the heck happened to the audio version of episode 104? Listen, I was in the midst of moving. The editing on episode 104 was bonkers because Google was being dumb like it was just now as well. And so it's taking me a little extra work to get that one figured out. But eventually it will get up. It was a good one. We had some good talks. Oh, geez, really? Kia! You can't hear me. I'm trying to plug in the...
Oh, man.
Oh, look, it's Kristen. Yeah, we're on air.
Hi, Keo. Oh, man, you guys, we're really working on trying to find a new platform that's not so glitchy. Yes. But we just haven't yet. Oh, don't use that hammer on that, Keo. I don't know if that will work. I mean, I don't know a lot about technology. But.
Yeah, we're trying to find a new platform for our podcast so that we don't have so many glitchy issues all the time, because as I was saying, the last episode was hard to salvage as a result of the glitches. So hopefully we'll figure that out. We apologize and we're glad you've stuck with us. So yeah, what was it? What after that? Kristen.
Yeah. Yes, that's me. Hello. Hi.
Kristen Lederell.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to get that out of the way. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Can you do it? We have a lot of stuff to talk about as Kia works on our IT things. I think it's not bad. Amongst them, this week, what I think we're really excited about is that Ghostbusters is finally
Ghostbusters.
But we had... So I bought tickets for us to go and see Ghostbusters this Thursday night, and we're going to like a super fancy place where like you have like leather seats,
and you like press the button and they bring you food.
Oh my gosh!
You guys, so we are really living the life.
Yeah, we figured if we were gonna do Ghostbusters, we were gonna do it right.
Do it up big.
Exactly. And so we got these tickets, but one thing that you may know about me specifically is that math is not my strong suit. And so I just told everybody like Venmo me some money for it. And Kristen, dear Kristen, is like, so I owe you $36. I buy 3 tickets, for Kristen's posse. I'm like, sure, if that's what 12 times 3 is. The conversation that ensued was like legitimately one of the most embarrassing things of my adult life. Like, I was trying to figure out like what the service fee calculated out to. I was like, well, it came to $12 for 8 tickets. So I think I have to divide. And you guys, whenever someone starts complaining about like the newfangled Common Core math or whatever, I just like I just look at myself in the mirror and think, if only. If only someone had taught me that blasted Common Core math.
I was like, would that be better? I don't know. I mean, I just honestly am not sure which is better at this solution. Yeah, I think what it is we just do not apply ourselves to math. That's really yeah. You know, it's just, that is what it is. I know that's my excuse.
That's what our teachers would have told us. You know,
I know in 3rd grade I had a hard time with my 12s, and it just has progressed. And my 4s, I was really bad with my 4s also.
Oh, see, 4s were okay for me because 4 was like my.
Oh, what? This is gonna be bad. It's your what? Are you still there? Am I talking to myself? Oh man. Well, 12s were hard and 4s were hard. Apparently they weren't hard for you. Oh gosh, you guys, we're so sorry. I feel like you're all gonna leave us because we're the worst. I could
Am I back?
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Thank goodness. Okay, good. It's just like, like crazy bananas and all that stuff.
And you're all but you are kind of garbly. It's the worst. We're the worst.
We are the worst. I'm so sorry, everybody, for us being the worst.
I know, and
am I still garbly? There's a, okay. Oh dear. Okay. Sure. Yep. Kristen, sing a song or something.
How does a bastard orphan son of a whore and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they placed him in charge of a trading charter, and every day I slaved. I can. Say
like, am I still being garbly?
You're ish. I mean, you're not as. I mean, I understand you, but
you can understand me. I just have robot voice.
Robot voice, yes.
Okay, that's fine. That's the best we're probably gonna get for now.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll fix itself. Worst. Or you keep on saying, give me 1 second. I'm gonna hang up and come back.
Okay. I already forgot. All right. I'll tell a story while you're gone. That's not about fireplaces.
Okay, yeah, tell a story. That'll be great. Okay, BRB.
You know what? Okay, go ahead. You don't need to be here for my story.
Okay, I look forward to hearing it later.
Yeah. So, you guys, we're doing this activity thing for work, and a friend of mine was going to draw us we're putting together these kits for newly arriving refugee families. Really excited about. It's gonna be super fun, and we wanted like a kind of a coloring activity for the kids. And so I asked a friend of mine to put together a coloring sheet that had a phrase, like an Arabic phrase on it, and then an English phrase, and then some pictures that the kids could draw that are cute, right? So he forgot, and so on Friday I realized he'd forgotten, and so I begged Jordan, our good friend Jordan Carlman, who did our beautiful cartoon of Historian Votron. If you guys have seen that, he's a very talented artist and just all around fun person. I sent him this email in a panic. I'm like, do you think maybe you have time to draw us something cool? And I sent him this example page like this, and I'm obviously a super good drawer, as you can tell by that's a ship and an ocean. I mean, he didn't have to draw this. I was just like, I don't know, maybe you want to, this is supposed to be mountains. And I just hoped that maybe you should see my California flag. That's supposed to be a bear. I don't even know if you can see that. It's just so terrible. It looks like a toddler drew it. And he gave us this beautiful coloring sheet with these beautiful, I sent him the lettering, and then he gave us these cute little pictures to color, and it says, "Welcome to America," and it's like adorable, and we're like, yay, refugees, welcome to America. Hopefully this picture is amazing, and he's just wonderful. And so I guess I just wanted to shout out to him for being awesome and being amazing and so smart and better than me in so many different ways. because my pictures are, I was like, I don't know, happy animals and happiness. Draw something that makes kids seem happy to, they're in a scary new place. What's something fun? Anyway, and he did an amazing job in like a super short amount of time. And I failed art in 7th grade. It's just like so bad. It's just, I mean, I wrote fields and flowers with a question mark, and I just drew squiggly lines. Like, dude, that doesn't even look like a field. Like, what is that?
I think all of it's water.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's so bad. And I had posted I had tweeted, I was like, I'm just so thankful for friends who are better than me at things, because otherwise my life would be sad. And I'm just constantly in awe. And I remember when that one time when we had Sebastian drew me this beautiful picture for Owen, our little Star Wars correspondent. And it was this gorgeous picture of him talking to Darth Vader. And I was like, oh, and then just so thankful for people who are smart and better. And Brienne, who goes to cool places and brings us back things because she's a thoughtful human, whereas I'm like not thoughtful. So
it's a thoughtful and generous friend.
You guys, generous friends who are great and amazing. I'm so thankful for them, because my skills are wanting in math, in art, really in spelling. And I can't use a comma. My grammar is atrocious. My writing isn't great. Obviously, I don't think before I speak. I don't really know why people hang out with me. Maybe for comic relief, because I always am ridiculous. But I'm like, gosh, you guys are so much smarter and better than me. You should get better friends too. You friended down, people. Come on.
Oh, that was a delightful story and rant, Kristen. Thank you.
Anyway, welcome back. You sound so much better. I'm so glad you're back, because we have really great things to talk about. I don't know where we should start. Ghostbusters. We're going to start with Ghostbusters. We're going to a fancy theater. We're very excited about it. It's going to be amazing. The people that are going are very fun. I'm very excited.
So far, the reviews came out 10 a.m. on Monday. And so I legitimately, I woke up at 7 that morning, and it was everyone was saying I can post my review at 10. I post my review at 10. I was like, it's 10 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Why are they not up yet? And so I was like that 3 hours was so long for me, because it was I knew it was coming. So my day was just in slow motion.
It's like when your mom won't let you open presents on Christmas until everybody's had breakfast. I'm like, we don't need to eat, Mom.
Everyone jam those cinnamon rolls and let's go.
Said me 6 months ago at Christmas. Just kidding.
No, every year. Still, to this day, I'm always first up and always upset. It's the first time that breakfast was going to happen first.
Yeah.
But so they finally released them, and they're trickling in. And when they started, it was at 61% positive or something like that. And as the morning wore on, it went up and up and up until it was 76% positive ratings for this. And now just to preface this, it's positive in that sense that, these are Rotten Tomatoes ratings. People liked them better than they didn't like them. So that doesn't necessarily mean every review was a rave review that thought this was the greatest movie on earth. But for what it was supposed to be, as a fun summer movie with hilarious ladies in it and everything, seems like the consensus is that it works in that way. And 76% isn't a fluke, That's not just
barely
barely passes the test. Yeah, it's most people liked it more than they didn't like it. And so I am so excited about that. I know the ratings will tank once the dudes who still think it's ruining their childhood get to do their audience reviews or whatever, but screw them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally. Because no one else is. Obviously, that's why they're so
burn.
I wish I had my Obama gif of a mic drop right now.
I know, right?
Just gonna lean out of the frame for those of you that are listening. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I was talking to people on Snapchat who had seen it as well, and all of them were like, "You're gonna love it. It's super fun."
I'm so pumped, and I just saw that they just had a clip of Melissa McCarthy trying to learn how to use they're in an alley And it's honestly, my favorite part of it is like when she goes to there's like
with the proton pack. Sorry, I interrupted, so Kristen never finished the sentence. But practicing the proton pack.
I like to bail out on my sentences anyway. Kate McKinnon's like giving her the rundown, and the look on Leslie Jones's face as she like backs away is like, I'm like, I need this like in my life, and someone needs to make a GIF of her being like for that time when I can send it to people of like. Anyway, and also
all of the Leslie Jones reaction faces. Are you going to talk about her dress?
Yes, I am right now. You guys, oh my gosh. Okay, so a few months ago, apparently, Leslie Jones kind of posted on Twitter like, hey, nobody wants to make me a dress for the Ghostbusters premiere. Well, you know, they're all going to regret that, whatever. And this man, and I've totally forgotten his name, some designer, I don't know them unless it's like Calvin Klein.
Christian Siriano.
Yeah, like Calvin Klein's the only one I know because he makes underwear or something, right? I don't even know if he makes real clothes too.
Yeah, I know that from Back to the Future.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so he comments and he's like, I would love to make a dress for you, whatever. And you guys, I don't know if you've seen this picture, but girl is like killing it. It's this red off the shoulder, like fire engine red dress that is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And she's got diamonds and these strappy sandals and a slit up the side that you're like, girl, what is happening? And she looks so fabulous, so glamorous. I'm just like, what's happening, Leslie Jones? Like, you are amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And it is just great. And it's this like moment of like Pretty Woman of like, oh, and that's even like, it's like, you know, like when she walked, the article was even saying like when she goes in and they're like, no, we're not going to help you. And then she comes back later and it's like, oh, I guess you should have helped me because look at all this stuff where it's like, and then he even gave her this like beautiful kind of Pretty Woman dress that is absolutely phenomenal.
And it, you know, to me, I think what really like resonates about this whole thing is like being someone like Leslie Jones with like not the normal body type for these things and, you know, with her hair and all of that. It's like you go through life when you don't have the proportions or the skin color or the hair of everyone else, like sort of accepting that that's not your look, you know? So it's like, that's not what she normally dresses like, right? And it's probably never been because she's like vehemently been like, I don't want to. It's because that stuff didn't exist for her. And it's like, I've spent a lot of my life being like, oh, I don't dress that way because that stuff's not meant for me. And so seeing her like pull this off is just that moment where it's like, you just want to throw your fist in the air and be like, that's right. Someone's making something for her. And like, this is her moment to finally like, have that Pretty Woman moment and be like, what? Yep, that's right. I'm not just, you know, this one-dimensional, you know, person that you've seen me be a little tomboyish or whatever the case may be, you know? I love everything about that. And I think it also, one of the things that I made a comment about it on Twitter, but, you know, when it comes to this Ghostbusters movie, one of the critiques a lot of people keep saying is, you know, like, oh, I hate when they have someone play like a stereotypically black character in something, you know? And it drives me insane because it's like Leslie Jones is playing Leslie Jones, you know, to an extent. Like, this is what her personality is like, and I get that it's frustrating or whatever that she's not a scientist like the rest of them, but the critique of being a stereotypically black person, I think, is just, you know, in and of itself a little racist. Like, what's so embarrassing or problematic about actually acting like the community that you came from? You know, and so her getting to sort of break out in all of these ways and be this character who represents who she was growing up, and to be able to wear this dress that flies in the face of what she's probably had to wear her entire life. Just everything about this is triumphant to me. I'm so Team Leslie right now.
I know. And then in addition, I think it was actually Stephanie Beatrice just tweeted this thing that was a picture of Kristen Wiig talking to these young girls that were dressed in Star Wars.
Ghostbusters uniforms.
Ghostbusters uniforms. And there's this picture and she's talking to this young girl who's like animatedly saying something to her. And then in the background is this little girl looking at Kristen Wiig with like complete awe, just like amazing awe. And the caption was like, this is why we need female-led films. And it's just like the look on her face is beautiful and priceless, and it's a wonderful picture. And I think something that, in addition to like the Leslie Jones of like, yes, like look at this woman gets to, you know, is able to dress probably like the way she's wanted to, and then these girls are looking, so girls are going to see Leslie Jones in that red dress, and then they're going to go into this movie and see her in regular clothes, whatever. It's like, oh, she can do both. Like, they can also
Women
wear the uniform.
multitudes.
Wait, what? I can be a scientist, or I can be a whatever, like be whatever. It's like, I'm just so excited I just love it so much. It's just too much for me. So too much.
Yeah. I had seen that same photo, by the way, with the caption, another childhood ruined by Ghostbusters.
Right, yeah.
Great. But yeah, I think, one of the things is it's like for all those who are worried about their childhood being ruined by it, like, don't go see the movie, that's fine. And maybe this is for somebody else's childhood.
Yeah, totally. Like, don't deprive it because, anyway.
It's for those girls seeing it.
It's for those
So we're excited
girls.
to go see it. We'll tell you all about it next week.
Next week.
It'll be glorious.
It will
Kristen,
be.
I'm afraid to click over to my notes lest I suddenly start robot voicing again. So how about you?
Okay.
You keep what's
sure.
next?
Pokemon Go has taken over the world, and I will admit I'm one of those people that's like not super sure what's going on. I don't hate it. I just don't
know what's
care.
Sure.
Sorry, like I just know people are doing it. People seem to be into it and having a really great time, and so I'm like, awesome, go. And actually, last night on my run, there were so many people, which I'm like, that guy's totally playing. All of these people, because they are like in this weird like park when there seem to be converging, and it's like, anyway, it was just kind of fun to notice, like it's almost like playing, like this, I don't know, like Where's Waldo or whatever. You're like, oh, is that guy doing it? Is he like actually just hanging out in the park or on his phone, or is he looking for Pokemon? So it's very fun.
Yeah, it's been very fun. Pokemon Go came out this past week. It's an augmented reality game, so you can basically, using the location on your smartphone, go around to different locations and find Pokemon. And so that's super cool, and people really got into it right away. I think in a way that even the makers did not expect, because the servers were crashing and, it's had a lot of lag and stuff like that as a result. But it's been super fun to like walk around where we live here in Anaheim. It's like there's not a lot of nightlife here. Everything kind of closes by 9 p.m. in our like neighborhood.
It's my dream.
Yeah, it's perfect Kristen neighborhood. But the funny thing is that like you walk downtown, or like to Center Street, which is a place sort of near us, and like there's like 100 people out on the street while there's nowhere for them to go, and they're all playing together. And it's like you'll be walking around and you see someone and they like pause and you're like, oh, do you see the Bulbasaur right here? And they're like, yeah, are you trying to get it too? And like it's suddenly everyone's like talking to each other, everyone's out and about, like, I think it's super cool. And of course, when there's something like this that's a fad, the internet goes insane with people trying to assert themselves as not part of the crowd, So there's also been a lot of stupid backlash, a lot of parody articles claiming people have caused 10-car pileups and all that kind of stuff playing it and whatnot. And, it's just silly. People being like, how do I block Pokemon from my Facebook feed? It's like, oh, okay. Oh, so you just want a whole bunch of people arguing about Donald Trump on your newsfeed? That's better. Okay.
You're like, or people having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, I saw my favorite meme was the one where it was like this really super sketchy van, and it said how to kidnap a 28-year-old in 2016, and it said really rare Pokemon inside, like spray painted. I was like, oh my gosh,
that was good.
That's obviously the best thing that's ever happened. Like, oh my gosh,
hilarious. Oh, I will say the one crazy story that was true that has come out of this Pokemon thing was that a girl legit found a dead body.
Oh gosh.
Straight up, she went and she climbed over a fence or something like that to go towards this like river or something. And she was trying to catch something, and then she like looked down and there was a body there. And so, obviously she was like, I didn't catch the Pokemon, I called 911.
Yeah.
Because naturally that was people's initial response, like, oh, she probably, didn't even call until she caught the Pokemon.
Yeah.
She called 911 right away, and they found the body. But that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That happened. But that could be considered a plus. Who knows how long that person would have been there had she not been playing Pokemon Go. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Solving crimes. people.
Silver linings. So Pokemon Go, it's kind of fun. I like it on like a very surface level. I like walking around and catching things and taking pictures of Pokemon in weird places. I don't like care enough to actually do like battles and all that kind of stuff. But I also like the opportunity to sort of walk around and feel like I like share a pastime with people.
That's fun. That's fun.
So if you're playing, you do you, and if you're being a jerk about it, stop doing you.
Yeah, just be kind.
Be kind.
Have courage and be kind, people. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Next up, you're still a little robot-y, just BT dubs. We got some fun news out of, so Star Trek comes out in a week.
Yes.
And so we got some fun, exciting news from the makers of Star Trek. So Sulu, and if you remember, is played by John Cho in the new reboot version, but we have got
Joe.
Oh, just one of them. Someone who there's that one guy that puts him in movies. He makes him the leading man in every movie. There's like a Twitter handle.
The starring John Cho.
Yes, that's what it is. Anyway, that's a total side note. I just remembered that.
Yeah, and it's glorious.
The point of this story is this: that Sulu's character is gay in Star Trek. That is the new development from this new movie. And oddly enough, George Takei, not a fan, which is interesting. So he, if you remember, originated Sulu back in the old TV show. And he was like not into it. Yeah. And Simon Pegg and Justin Lin and the other dude that I forget his name, were like all excited about the other writer that was writing it with Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I can't think of what his name is off the top of my head now.
That guy. Anyway, Doug Young.
Sure.
Is that how you say it? Jung?
That should be how you say it, I imagine.
Nailed it. Anyway, they would like come to George with this idea, and George was like, "Oh yeah, no, mm-mm." And they were like, "Well, we're doing it, so sorry," you know. So George is like, "Oh, it's not canon. That wouldn't be something that Gene would have liked." Right. And he kind of comes out against it. And then Simon Pegg writes this very, very nerdy, but also very wonderful response to not only George, but to other people who have been like not into the idea either. And kind of, you know, the reasons why they did it and the thought process behind it, which is extensive. This was not it was one of those things where you're like, oh, that's cool. Like a nice, like kind of tribute to George. And then, you know, a new kind of thinking about it, Star Trek, which has always been kind of this pioneering force in media with like, you know, having the first interracial couple and being somebody who's like really inclusive. Like they have all these different, you know, races and aliens and all this kind of stuff that happens. So it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer almost, like, of course. And this is like such a cool nod. And then you guys really should read. I'm not even gonna try and quote it because part of it I had to check out because he was talking about like whatever his like math science. I'm like, okay. But it is really great, and it's cool that they didn't just, it wasn't just something like an afterthought, like, oh, let's do this. It was like, no, we like really thought about this, and there's a reason behind it, and this is why it works. And,
and one of the things that, you know, that George Takei and Simon Pegg disagreed on, and I will say one of the great things is that Simon Pegg is so respectful of him this entire time. He's not pulling like a Ridley Scott and just being like, money, or, you know, things like that. But, you know, was that George Takei thought that they should introduce a new character as a gay character. Mm-hmm. And Simon Pegg's reasoning on that was like, if we were to bring in a new character as a gay character, that would be what they were. They would be the token gay character in Star Trek. And it was like by, you know, creating in this timeline, which is an alternate timeline from the original series. So, you know, anything can kind of be possible. They're taking out that token thing and bringing someone in who we already love, and who we don't have judgments about. And, you know, giving them, because he's not just like, you know, oh, he's gay or whatever. He's got like a long-term partner and a child in this. And so he's taking someone that already we're attached to and, you know, giving them that sort of legacy. And I think that's a really good sort of way of going about it, you know, is to be like, listen, like, yes, we could have brought someone in and they would have been great and fine and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, that would have been what we characterized that person as. It's like, and it's true. You would be like, oh, what was that actor? The one who played the gay guy. and stuff. Yeah. Like, that's how people refer to it. Whereas Sulu, like you have your own ideas of who he is, and this doesn't take away from that, and just sort of is like, this is what his own life's like, and that's fine. So I think, Simon Pegg did a great job of explaining his reasoning and being like, listen, we don't begrudge George his opinion. Right. We love him, respect him, and we really feel like we're honoring him and Gene Roddenberry in this way, and here are all our reasons. So yeah, like Kristen said, check out the actual response from Simon Pegg, which will be up on the blog on electriceast.com. You can find the link to it there. And I don't know, maybe you disagree, maybe you agree with George, whatever the case may be. Let us know if that's the case. But I think you'll find you did a good job.
Yeah. And then real quick, we just wanted to touch on this next thing because we talked about it at length with Seth when he was here. And so we know we're kind of behind the times, but we just wanted to make sure we threw that out there, that we did see, and to kind of critique a little bit in this, just the responses that have come up from it, that apparently Cap is not Hydra. Dun, dun, dun. So Captain America is not Hydra. Shocker of the world. For those of you, hopefully it's not a spoiler alert for those of you reading it. Hopefully you already know. So sorry, that was
if you're actually following the storyline, you probably read it already.
You probably already read it, but that came out a couple of weeks ago, and people are like, "Oh, Marvel backtracked," and we're like, "Right? They've already they did not in a month draw and redo the storyline for this entire comic book. Like that.
Like it would have to not just be this one issue; it has to be the entire arc they redid."
Yeah.
Like, that's not how that works.
So that's not what happened. They didn't backtrack. They just they duped us. Pretty good. They got us. So
what ended up being the case was that there's basically like the Red Skull has some sort of thing. What's called some sort of cube thing? What was it called?
Oh, I don't remember.
But basically, it messes with your mind or something.
Yeah.
It creates
false
memories. That are really memories, and that is why there's recollections on Cap's part of this upbringing.
Right.
And so that is what happened with it, and still you can be frustrated with the way it originally came out, being led on that way, or not, or you can be like, cool, it's all good. But yeah, one of the things I critiqued Kristen was just that it was like the two types of articles talking about this were either like, oh, they redid everything, they backtracked because of fans, which is clearly not the case, or like, oh, everyone was stupid to be mad in the first place, you're all ignorant, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not really the case. People had every right to be upset at that. A character beloved to them was apparently having this arc thrust upon him. And like we said at the time, we knew it wasn't going to last, but there's definitely
Okay, I think I missed the last part. You're kind of skipping out in Robody, but I think I got most of that.
Yeah.
Also, you're coughing to death, which is traumatic for me. Now to something that is gonna be similar to the Ghostbusters theme of what we've previously discussed. There has been some disappointing is probably a light way to put it. Yeah, I was trying to think. Yeah. I was trying to not say that. Yeah. But yes, bullshit. We'll call it what it is. In the news lately, I actually hadn't read the Vanity Fair article. It is the worst thing I've ever read. I was offended, and I'm not even Australian. I was offended.
Okay. Explain it here. Because this is,
Okay, so we'll start with this. So basically, the beginning of this entire section of our podcast is going to be about how women are portrayed and talked about and discussed in media in Hollywood.
Especially in a journalistic way.
Yeah, and so case in point comes from this kind of catalytic story. I think started with this article from Vanity Fair. This article written by a man, obviously, you can tell within the first sentence and a half, about Margot Robbie. So she's going to be in Joker, and we've always said on this podcast, not super big fans of Margot, but whatever, she can do her thing.
Interests us, but that's fine.
But that's it. Honestly, after reading this, I'm like, you didn't give me anything more interesting about her. You've literally made made her more boring, which I don't understand. Anyway, like, I don't know how you could possibly have done that in our eyes. I'm like, you've told me nothing about her. Anyway, this is besides the point. It is, first of all, it's completely terrible. Oh God, where do I start? He is like this condescending thing about Australia, this whole part about how like, oh, Australia is America 50 years ago. I'm like, has he been to Australia?
Throwback people.
Yeah. It's like they're backwards and they like don't know. It's like they don't use indoor plumbing or something. I don't know. They like don't know how to use a tampon. Like babies. Yeah, like it's like all of the stereotypes and like the jokes that people make about. I'm surprised he didn't throw shrimp on the Barbie in there somewhere, or some kind of joke about Crocodile Dundee, because this guy's like clearly never been to Australia and doesn't know anything about Australia. And is just like talks about it like it's this most backward place on the planet, and it's so charming and endearing. If you ever get a chance to stop by, you really should just swing by Australia and see all these weird people that walk around backwards and their toilets flush the opposite way. And you're like, oh my gosh, like you're a terrible person. And then on top of that, he just objectifies and tears down while pretending to build up Margot, and it is like sickening. I was getting sick to my stomach reading it, because he basically just makes her into a sex object, and that's what everybody sees her as. I'm like, no, that's how you see it, and you're disgusting and gross, and like the way. But also, like, this weird,
he makes it almost worse by like making her into a sex object, but also like one of the ways in which he tears her down during this is by sort of talking about her as like a girl next door, like as if like she's not that hot. Like I could probably have dated her.
Yeah. I'm like, no, you couldn't have, because you're a creeper and disgusting and
gross.
This story is terrible. Like, yeah, the way that he talks about her, and like even the way that she, like when she comes into the restaurant, it's like you just feel like she probably went and took a shower when she got home after talking to him. I have a feeling. And maybe the reason that it was such a boring article was because she was probably bored by him and was like, oh God, I don't want to tell you anything about myself lest you come and murder me.
Seriously.
It was just, anyway, and then it becomes this like weird like bromance about Jerry Weinreb or whatever, the guy that was, whatever his name is, the guy.
Which is the weirdest.
It's like, it takes this creepy turn where he gets all nostalgic about this one time he interviewed him about Tarzan, which is, oh my, you guys, it is just the most inexplicably terrible thing I've ever read.
To believe it. Like, when you try to explain this, you're just like, you're at a loss, because
you
everything about it.
And the thing is that they published it. Somebody read it and was like, good job, bro. We're going to put this in. I'm like, obviously the editors that read it were also men, I'm assuming, because I just have a hard time believing that a woman would have read it and been like, I mean, I don't read a lot of Vanity Fair, so I mean, I guess maybe that's par for the course for them. I actually don't know, but it was. I mean,
apparently par for the course for this author, who people have pointed out, for example, that when Alicia Silverstone was 18, he wrote about also her in similar ways, where he went off about her lips and the shape of her lips, and they acknowledged in the article that she hates when people talk about her lips like this, and then kept on talking about it, and then referred to her as a girl who you could date, who you probably have dated, you know. And it's like, what is your problem, bro? Like, why do you feel you need to assert the dateability of these girls? Like, this is how you bring, like, okay, she's hot, but I can have her. Like, why is that? Why does that come up every time? And he did another one about Angelina Jolie, where he made like this whole big deal about like her body being disproportionate, like in her alien head that's too big for her body and stuff. And you're like, why are all your profiles of women about like whether or not you could or would have sex with them?
And how do people keep publishing them? Like it's like I've
reading them. Like,
it was atrocious. So it kind of started out with that, and then huge backlash against it, and then there was a different article that a man named Owen Gleiberman talked about. This was in Variety. Owen Gleiberman's article was in Variety, in which he basically just spends the entire time ripping apart the way Renee Zellweger looks now. And I think I remember a few years ago, she hadn't been in anything for a while, and then she showed up and she'd had some work done. And it was one of those things where you're like, what? It kind of looks like Renee Zellweger, but it also kind of doesn't look like Renee Zellweger. And it was this huge hoopla about it. And she was like, hey, like, I feel confident. I feel great about myself. And then we were like, oh, okay, well, cool. Great. Fine. We'll move on now. This Owen apparently has not moved on. So he spent an entire article just ripping her apart and being awful and mean and just
basically saying that, like, oh, she doesn't look like the actress that we knew. Can she really be that actress anymore?
Yeah, I'm like, she's not, like, this is not Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, yes, it's Renee Zellweger. She's a human being with human feelings, and I know
but she didn't become a different person.
Yeah, it's anyway, it's terrible. And then Rose McGowan, who I honestly didn't know. I don't know anything about her other than I do remember her taking over for Crazy Pants McGee in Charmed, right? Or what was her name? I actually don't know if she's crazy, but I don't know. I just remember, like, Shannon Doherty was like, and I thought actually might have been one of those other things where she got, like, pegged as this, like, mean, angry lady when really she wasn't. I actually don't remember. I just remember there being a huge, like, hoopla over it, and she left unceremoniously, and then they get this, like, random other sister who they, like, forgot about, which was when they didn't just Aunt Viv her, which I personally am in. I like those moments when they just Aunt Viv
I clearly don't notice when that happens. So
yeah. So anyway, sorry, I shouldn't have called Shannon Doherty Crazy McGee. That was rude. I don't know anything about her life. She's probably very nice. Sorry. Backtrack. Anyway, I got carried away. The point is this: Rose McGowan, who I don't super know a whole lot about, then writes this article being like, "Hey, guess what? Nope," and just goes to town on this author or journal person. And it's really great and kind of refreshing, and not refreshing. It's sad that we even have to write something like this in 2016, but
and the way she's basically talking about the way that, like, this machine has sort of chewed her up and spat her back out of it, which is, I remember when I went to go see Scream at Cinespia last year at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, she introduced the film. And I was, like, a little caught off guard when I saw her at first. I was like, whoa, she, like, looks like she's had a lot of work done and things like that. And I was like, oh, God, Rose McGowan, no. But seeing her talk about, like, the way that she's tried to come through this and everything, I was like, okay, yeah, like, this is a really sucky place to be as a woman in this kind of, entertainment industry that, like, tears you apart for aging, but also tears you apart for trying to halt the aging process. And she's just like, no, we can't keep discussing women like this. It's mean, it's petty, it's bullying. That's what it is. It's bullying. It's trying to say, and this is the thing with that other guy too, trying to tear down people like Margot Robbie and Alicia Silverstone by, like, downplaying their beauty. It's all of this is a way of sort of being like, know your place. Like, you are here for me to look at first and foremost. And if you don't look the way I want you to look, you've lost your utility to me in any possible way. And you can disguise that as a critique of acting, but it's not, like Matt Damon doesn't look like Jason Bourne 15 years ago, but we believe it.
And nobody's complaining about that.
Yeah, like, that's fine. You can continue to play a character and not look exactly as you did. Like, Daniel Craig doesn't look like James Bond 10 years ago when he started playing that guy. Things like that. It's like, there's really no reason to call her out for looking different, except that you're upset that you're not as attracted to her as you once were.
Yeah, it's like,
and he tried to disguise it too, which is, like, even worse as a concern for the fact that, like, in the initial Bridget Jones movies, they were about sort of body acceptance and things like that. Which is one of the great things about those. It's a woman who's, like, a little chubby and things like that, and she has trouble with it, but eventually, like, hot men like her and whatever anyway, And he tried to disguise this as a critique to be like, oh, I just don't want, Bridget Jones now to be a woman who is so self-conscious she had to change herself. Like, no, screw you.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah.
You do not care.
Because if you cared, you wouldn't have written the first half of this article.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh gosh, it's just it's so disappointing, and and then there was another article that we had read also that was about Blake Lively that was very similar, and like, oh, she's so boring, and it's just as you're reading it, you're like, it was like, it was legitimately like someone was writing, like, in those journals when you were like in junior high and high school, and you would like pass a journal to your friends and basically had all your notes to each other in them. This is what that reminds me.
I called it a burn book. Mean Girls burn book.
Mean Girls. It's like a burn book, or like those journals that you used to have with your friends, where it's just mean, and there's no like actual critique in it of her actual acting or her actual whatever. It's just pointing. It's just basically they're bitter because she's beautiful and they're mad about it, I guess, or something. Like, I'm not even really sure where their beef is lying and what exactly it is that irks them so much about Blake. But it was just
the issue with like how I was just saying with this guy talking about Bridget Jones, where he disguises it as it being like, oh, it's about body image or whatever. Yeah. But the Blake Lively thing, they disguise it as like, oh, it's about white privilege, you know? Yeah. But, like, what is Blake Lively supposed to do? Not be white?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, I'm not gonna say she's never made a misstep. When she was into plantations and things like that, and like the aesthetic of it or whatever, that was a misstep. Like, okay, but as a person, like, that's not what they were critiquing. They were just critiquing that, like, she's so pretty as to be bland and edgeless and, like, okay.
Well, and why is it that her white privilege is the only one that gets called out when, like, I mean, like, the amount of white privilege in Hollywood is, like, literally on every corner. I mean, where was, I mean, no, like, why are we going to call her out for it, but nobody else? Or I guess, like, that's the big upset, and that's what we're upset about. I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think you're just trying to sound politically correct and cool by like, using her as your scapegoat, when in reality,
it's the same thing as, like, you know, I think it's schoolyard bullying on a level, using, like, feminist terms to justify.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
and catchphrases. It's not really feminism. Yeah, and what sucks about it then too is then it's like, yes, now they're disguising it behind that. I'm like, this isn't feminism. Like, you're playing into that not misnomer, but you're playing into that idea that people give feminists of just being like bickering, bitter women who are angry with each other. I'm like, that's not what it is either. Like, you're the problem. You're the problem with feminism, and like. Oh gosh, it makes me so mad. And
it's fine if you don't like Blake Lively's acting. It's fine if you don't find her entertaining. Don't go see her movies and stuff like that. But to tear her apart, like, based on her, like, the article itself had no basis in, like, really, it wasn't even a critique of her acting or anything like that. It was basically like she mentioned it. No, she makes some unsuccessful things here and there. Even that wasn't the case. Like, they were like, Age of Adeline was, like, ridiculously successful. She's done all these, like, incredibly successful things, and they basically just don't give her any credit for any business prowess or anything like that. Like, it's just, you know, straight up like, oh, it's just because she has no edges, you know? And, like, I'm like,
and I was like, also, are you friends with Blake Lively? Do you know that she's a boring piece of paper?
Right.
Because from anything, that the fact that she's married to Ryan Reynolds means she must be at least a little bit hilarious. Right. Because that fool seems very funny to me. I don't know a lot of anyway, it's like one of those. It's very similar, I think, to remember that article we talked about a while ago. What's his face? The guy that was pretending to be friends with Johnny Depp and was like, "Oh, I know so much about her." I'm like,
totally.
But you don't know her. You don't know anything about her, and yet you've decided to make this entire assumption about her character and whether or not she's telling the truth and lying. I was like, it's the same thing with Blake Lively. Like, you know a picture. You've seen a picture of her. You've maybe seen Gossip Girl once. You've seen maybe Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and based on that, you're making an entire assumption about the character of this person. And don't get me wrong, I do that too. And I'm trying to catch myself in it, because when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh my God, that is total bullshit. Don't do that, Lauderdale. Like, I mean, case in point, I just called Shannon Doherty Crazy Pants McGee, when probably she's not. I don't know the whole story behind what would happen there, but look, even I'm doing it. Gah! I'm a hypocrite. You should write a story about me of how terrible I am. Just kidding, don't do that. That would make me very sad.
But on my next blog, why Kristen Lauderdale is a hypocrite.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know I am. Oh God.
It's true though. I think, like, that's the thing that I think has been. And one of the things that I love about doing this podcast too is, like, being on a journey of, like, noticing these things and stuff like that. And that's a place I think people should be, is being like, when I like decide I don't like an actor or actress, like, am I just being a dick about it? You know, like, is this really based on like I don't like their acting, or you know, or is it like some sort of deep-seated like they have a thing about them that I don't have about me that I wish I had, or like, you know, am I just being a bully? You know, like, it's okay to be uninterested in someone. It's okay to think someone's a bad actor or actress and things like that. But when we start like assigning like motives to people that we don't know, and you know, assessing their character and ripping them apart just because like we have a visceral response to them, like I don't see any benefit in doing that.
Yeah, and you're not doing like what is it for? Like it's not makes you just look like a dick.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what I mean? Like we were trying to be like, oh, bullies only do that to build themselves up. I was like, right, but I don't see how that is the case in especially these things that we are seeing lately. I mean, in some ways it is. I think remember we'd even talked about you know what? Actually, no, I'm not gonna go there. I forgot. Never mind.
Well, so like the place that I found this unbearable blankness of lively thing that upset us so was on this Facebook page called Celebrity Gossip Academic Style, which once upon a time may have fit that bill, and now it's just trash. And you know the particular person, so it's Anne Helen Peterson of BuzzFeed, and then Hari something, I can't remember his name, is the other person who posts on it. But so Hari was the one who had posted this unbearable blankness thing and was just kind of like, this is great, wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And the comments on it were awful, and people just like piling on her for really like dumb reasons, you know, like
no reasons. No
she's like, like I want to believe because Ryan says that she is hilarious, that she is, but she just seems awful. And I'm like, why? She's like really nice and everything. I don't understand that.
I mean, honestly, the fact that if you should, and what should change your mind is she was on Jimmy Fallon and schooled him in Harry Potter trivia, and it was amazing.
Right. And people
he was like, come on, do it.
Yeah,
amazing.
They'll think she's pandering, yada, yada, and you're like, no, you can't make that stuff up. You know? And then today, the same site posted a thing about Jennifer Aniston, and Jennifer Aniston has come out and basically like criticized the tabloids for constantly, you know, trying to figure out if she's pregnant or not. And she's basically like, I'm done with this. Just stop. She's like, it perpetuates this narrative that like a woman is not like fulfilled and her happy if she doesn't have children and all this kind of stuff. And it was great. Like, and she, you know, made comments about how like she was like, I used to look at this like it was harmless and like soap opera fodder, but like now I realize the impact it has on like real women when the tabloids are saying things like this. And it was like a really, you know, cool thing for her to say, especially in light of how she's been treated.
Right, and I actually really, I appreciated it because I've felt that as somebody, I can't even tell you the amount of times someone has told, you know, the way I get talked to as a woman who's single or doesn't have kids, not married, it's like, you know, oh, just wait until that you know, I'm like, first of all, don't make an assumption about the way that I'm going to make my life choices. Like, as if I understand that is what's great for you. And people who've had kids always, you know, they say that. And I'm like, that's great. Like, for your stage in life. And maybe that will definitely be something that I want to do. But if not, like, that doesn't mean that I'm less of a person than you and like, or less of a human because I've decided not to do that. Or it's like, oh God, what's wrong with you? You don't want to have children. It's like, I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. And so I loved it was refreshing to hear from her, especially someone who's so constantly being beat over. It's like, yes, it's, you know, and they apply this, you know, sad life that she has. Like, oh, she got dumped by Brad Pitt and she's never going to have children. He's got 6. He's so successful. It's like, that means nothing. Like, and she's like, so, and I just feel so bad that she had to even write this response of like, hey, guess what? Stop trying to tell me how I'm feeling. I'm in charge of that. I own that myself. And it was this article, and anyway, I'm getting carried away
here.
I
really think, but what one of the things you're sort of leading towards here too is that like she didn't have to write this article. Right. She's fine. She's a bajillionaire. All that kind of stuff.
I've never heard her speak out.
She wrote this for us. She wrote this for people following this story. You know, she wrote this because she was like, these are people who like are like taking this narrative in and think that this is a normal way to think about things, and that's not okay. You know, like she is living her life just to throw being happy, but she's like, I see how toxic this is. Mm-hmm. And so when like Celebrity Gossip Academic Style posted it, they turned it in this light of being like, whatever, like she can say this, but like she's used tabloids to her advantage dozens of times before, and it's just hypocritical for her to say this. I don't understand how we pick the women who say things that we like, and Celebrity Gossip Academic Style as well is like really into Angelina Jolie. And it's like, why is like the way that she does things okay, but when Jennifer Aniston does it, it's wrong? You know, and how do we pick the women we like versus the ones we don't like? Celebrity Gossip Academic Style does like Blake Lively, or Jennifer Lawrence, or Jennifer Aniston,
or Anna Kendrick.
Or Kendrick,
or
and
Britney
it's like,
Spears,
why?
apparently.
Britney Spears, like we have to do better. Like, and that's ultimately, I think, what we're trying to say here is that we have to do better in the way that we talk about women, you know, and letting them be multifaceted. You know, like even if it were the case that Jennifer Aniston has dozens of times used tabloids to her advantage, like good, because we're not entitled to her life. You know, and if she wants to give us a narrative of it that's not what her actual life is, then more power to her, because she's an actress and not my like homie down at the pub. Like I don't get to know what her inner life is. That's not her prerogative to, like, you know, she doesn't have to tell me anything about her.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? She controls her narrative. That's how that works. And I just, you know, that's the thing that we have to do, is let women control their narrative.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess that's kind of, what this entire rant, and I think what we've been saying forever on this podcast, is that stop trying to tell them how to do their life. Because you, as random faceless person on the internet, doesn't have the final say in what defines womanhood. And there isn't one way to be a woman, and there isn't, and I don't know why we feel the need to tell people that. And you even brought it up with then the stereotypical black woman, you know, as Leslie Jones has to play. It's like, why do you get to put that on Leslie or on anybody? Like, no, stop. If that's someone's personality, that is just happens to be how that person is. If Jennifer Aniston is a childless woman, like, that's just who she is, and she probably is very happy about it. She probably gets to do super cool stuff that you don't get to do, so whatever. And I guess I'm sick of them feeling like that they get to tell me how to live my life. And I feel like that's been, growing up, you hear a certain way that you're supposed to act, and it's like, no wonder you have these kids who are, we have this whole generation of people who are like lost and confused and don't know what to do with their lives. It's because they don't feel like they fit in a mold. It's like, you don't, and that's cool. Like, it's fine that other people don't get to come in and tell you how to live your life, and this whole Black Lives Movement thing and these things that have been going on now, where like, again, of people being like, no, I'm going to tell you what you need to act like and how you should be and what you can and can't be upset about. And it's like, I don't come into your life and say, oh, you shouldn't be upset. You shouldn't be upset about that, because I'm like, why do you get to dictate what pisses me off?
Yeah.
Since when has that ever been a thing that we do in the history of time, to be able to go to someone and be like, that shouldn't make you upset? I'm like, shouldn't it though? Based on my experiences and the things that have happened to me and to the people in my life, like, yeah, it should piss me off. And don't come in here and tell me how I should grieve. Don't come in here and tell me how I should be angry and how I should handle the circumstances that have been going on. Like, you're not me. Like, stop. Like, you do you. Let's maybe have an open dialogue about how you do things. Like, fine, but you don't get to come in and dictate my life to me. That's not the way that I roll, and that's not you wouldn't like it if I did that to you.
I'm just gonna.
Sorry.
That was my mic dropping. That's what that was. For those who couldn't see at home.
Yeah, I'm done.
That's exactly it. That's 100% the way I feel about all of this. So we need to change the way we talk about women, the way we talk about people who are not like us, about all of this. We need to fix it. And I think on that note, because we've pivoted that way, we have movie trailers to talk about, both of which deal with race, and one of which, the first was the trailer for Loving.
I know, I was getting very emotional.
Yes, Loving, for those that don't know the story of Loving, this was a couple, an interracial couple, who was married in, what state was it?
Virginia.
Virginia. That's right, Loving versus Virginia. And their marriage was deemed invalid because it was a black woman and a white man, and it became this sort of huge miscegenation case, and was one of the things that sort of set precedent for the way that mixed race marriages have been looked at in the United States ever since then. And so this movie stars Joel Edgerton and, what's her first name? Something like that.
I didn't recognize her. I actually don't know who she is.
She seems great. I think I've seen her in something when I was watching her. Ruth Negga, is that her name? I think it's something like that. Anyways, the trailer.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the trailer is very emotional to watch. And, you know, obviously, from a personal sense, being a mixed race person, this very much applies to my life. And one of the things that's interesting in my family is that if you look back at pictures of my great-grandparents from the early 1900s, it's a white-esque man and a black woman married to each other. He was Scottish, and my grandmother was black from Bermuda, great-grandmother. So my great-grandparents were a Scottish guy and a black woman from Bermuda. So very early on, mixed-race couple. And then obviously my dad was white, my mom was black, and me, obviously that makes any relationship that I'm in a mixed-race relationship. And some of our best friends, the Flintai, as we call them, they actually got married on Loving Day. That's June 12th, which was the day I think that they won their case. I believe that was the reason why they call it Loving Day.
Probably.
So June 12th is that day, and they're a mixed-race couple and got married on that day. So it's very much like, you know, applicable to my life, to my friends' lives, and things like that. And watching this fight, I mean, ugh.
It's rough. Yeah, there's a documentary that I've had, it's one of those ones where I've had it saved on my Netflix queue for a couple of months, but I'm like, I never feel like I'm in the emotional state in which to handle it, which is how it usually goes with documentaries. I'm like, okay, am I going to be ready? Am I ready to sob my way through this and have my roommates come home, find me like a mess? Because that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So now that this movie's coming out, I'm like, I'm gonna have to find the time to watch it, because it is such an interesting case, and the movie looks and the part that really just, well, multiple parts, but I guess maybe because it was kind of the parting shot. It's at the very end where the lawyer is asking Joel Edgerton, he's like, is there anything you want me to tell the Supreme Court about you or whatever? And he just looks at me, he's like, yeah. He's like, I love my wife. And then he looks at me, he's like, I love my wife. And I'm like, oh my God.
I like legitimately had the full on tear roll.
Yeah, I'm just crying, and it's this beautiful, like, it's going to be just a beautiful story, and it looks, visually it looks really pretty. I don't know why. It just like all these open fields and kind of, 1950s America, 60s America, just looks beautiful. And so I'm excited for it. I don't remember seeing an actual release date.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure when it comes out either. It was already at Cannes.
Yeah, it was just like a first trailer that they've sort of released. Oh no, it does, November 4th, according to IMDb. So, so take a look at that. But
it was the 60th anniversary of that case, so it's sort of the like anniversary commemoration of that. Yeah, so it's check out the trailer. It'll be on electricfeast.com, and it's a crying movie, but I think it's an important movie to realize, where we are, where we've been.
Yeah.
I mean, I was seeing something earlier that was talking about Birth of a Nation too. It's basically,
oh gosh,
there could not be a more like perfect time for this film to come out, and we have this like spate of movies dealing with race issues that I think we're in a moment where it's like suddenly, one of the things that in this past week, so many horrible things have happened, with Philando Castile and with in Sterling and with Dallas and the shooting of the police officers there and things like that. Like, it's been just a terrible week But one of the things that's heartening is seeing for the first time a lot of people that I've seen in the past be like all lives matter people, or who have really fought against the idea that we have any form of like racial injustice or systemic racism and things in this country, actually starting to be like, I need to listen. I've been doing this wrong this whole time. You know, like Kristen and I, we both went to a, you know, conservative Christian university, so a lot of our friends are really hostile to a lot of these ideas. But I don't know if this is the same for you, Kristen, but I've seen a lot more openness to this after this past week than I have ever seen before.
I think it's almost, for me, it's not so much more of an openness. It was just more of a vocalism. Is that even a word? I think I made it up.
I get where you're going with it.
I feel like people who don't normally post something were like, you know what, I'm done with this now, and have just decided to say something, which I thought was really cool. And I know for me, I bought this book months ago, but I started reading in earnest this weekend, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, and it's very good. I'm learning a lot. I feel like I felt very proud of myself, because at one point I underlined, I was like, oh, double check this in Edmund S. Morgan's book. I like made a note to go check my American Slavery, American Freedom book. I turned the page and she quotes Edmund S. Morgan's American Slavery, American Freedom. I was like, I could have written this book. I couldn't have, obviously. I don't know math or grammar, but it's very good. And so like for me, it's also been this week as a turning point of like, I need to just, same thing. Like I feel like I listen a lot, but I feel like I don't hear a lot. And so I'm trying to do that this week. Same thing, like trying to find articles. I'm like starting with a book, because I feel like for me, like articles, I have a hard time with this, because I mean, as you can tell, any wingnut can post an article and people read it. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I want to start with like book, because that's got usually some kind of serious scholarly work has gone into it, and I can fact check it and kind of go from there. As opposed to, I feel like sometimes articles lots of time are written in the heat of things and be very emotional. And so I feel like with a book, you can get sort of a little bit more solid ground to kind of go off of. Maybe that's naive, but maybe because
all your sources are listed, you can look at it.
And you can go back and kind of do that. So for me, I'm like, I'm going to start here. This will be my kind of starting point of then branching. And actually, I've already ordered another book based off of this book. Actually, it's probably at my house today, as well. Yeah. So, and it's actually called The Strange Career of Jim Crow. Yeah.
Which she mentions very early on.
She does, and so I've ordered that as well. And so I'm going to start reading that, I think, after this one. But anyway, so all of that to say, this movie looks great. I'm excited for it. In addition to that, Daniel Radcliffe takes a disturbing turn as an FBI agent who goes undercover with a group of neo-Nazis in the movie Imperium, which has also come out, and that trailer just dropped recently as well. And it is... The whole time and it's so funny, because I'm like, I know it's a movie, obviously, but the whole time I'm thinking like, oh gosh, like, I wonder what people think of him, like being this way. Like, it was making me uncomfortable, and I was like, this can't be worth it. It can't be worth it. Like, he looked like he was getting a tattoo at one point. Like, that is crossing a line.
That's when he's like marching in the parade. I was like, oh no, people are gonna see him and think. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It's stressful. The whole thing is stressful, and to realize like what like someone like that, like an FBI agent, would go through to be undercover in a group like this. You have these moments in this trailer where you see him like clearly having to be party to things he doesn't want to be a party to, and like trying not to show that, as people are very wary of. There could be someone amidst our ranks who is not one of us, and. But it's cool to see like Daniel Radcliffe, who's like this tiny little British man, somehow manages to pull off a lot of roles that like you would think are far beyond
honestly him. And he has shocked me.
Yeah,
his
range is very surprising.
It's like, who are you? Like, I kind of thought, I've always thought of him as just that kid who like didn't have anything better to do, so he auditioned for Harry Potter and got it randomly, and wasn't really an actor. Totally. And, I mean, because in the early Harry Potters, he's
nothing impressive,
questionable. And as the Harry Potters go on, you like kind of see him start to grow a little bit, and then it's like, oh, he's never going to shed this. He's always going to be Harry Potter. But I'm like, he
totally
is very very talented. And yeah, this movie, I was like, already with the trailer, I was so like sucked into him, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, don't just turn down this assignment. Like, it's too much for you. I don't know who you are, but you seem like, even in the beginning, he seems a little clean cut and kind of like, here I am, Mr. FBI. And I'm like, oh, you seem too innocent to be taking this on. And
don't do it. It's a bad idea.
It's one of those ones where I'm like, I feel like I should see it, but I don't know if I can handle it because I cry at Nature Valley commercials. I don't even know if I can handle this. So, like I said, in the trailer, it was already very stressful, but it's I just think it's such an interesting look into, it's one of those ones that's going to be very people-y. Like, it's going to get real down to, like, I think the heart of people and human nature and the human nature of this group. And I wonder what he'll find, like, with kind of the darkness that's going to be in these people that he is aligning himself with, what kind of goodness maybe that he'll find.
Like, where does humanity lies?
Where's the humanity going to be in it? And I wonder how they're going to, if they're going to, I don't know. It's interesting to see. So part of me is like, oh, I kind of want to see how they explore that, even though I feel like
I think right now, in general, whether it's something like this or with, people being more interested in hearing Black people and Black Lives Matter or things of this nature, one of the things that, like, we have to realize is, like, the fears that a lot of these things are born out of, so, like, white supremacists, like, and racism and things like that aren't necessarily born of a desire to hate something as much as they are of a scapegoating of very real fears about the economy and about, their place in the world and things like that. And so, to me, I think there is a value in not, like, lionizing people who are racist and terrible, but also being like, here's the situation that they're in that drives them towards this ideology, and thinking about, what makes people into monsters. They aren't born monsters. It's a mix of the way that they're, raised, what their parents thought, and a mix of actual external factors that drive people to find an easy way to explain it. Something to blame besides, like, the actual structures that are doing it. And that's what this is. So hopefully it'll delve into that in this film.
And it'll be interesting to see to see that. And it's complicated, and for some reason people want to simplify it, and I don't know if it's because they are scared of the conversation, or if they're scared of, like, if they get too deep into it, they'll start to see similarities, or they'll start to see where their own flaws are. I know that's a scary thing, don't get me wrong. Like, there's definitely been times where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get into this because this could really point out how terrible I am, and I don't like that, we all have that kind of urge, and that's one of those things I feel like I'm trying to grow in, and being like, okay with, like, okay, let's step and look into it and self-criticize, or have people criticize you and be able to take it and be like, you're right, I do have those shortcomings, and I do say those things that are awful. And honestly, in these conversations, I want there needs to be more grace in the conversation that we have, because we're so quick to be like, oh, well, you're just a racist. Oh, well, you're just a not racist. I don't know even what the other term would be. Anyway, we're so quick to then judge, instead of being like, okay, let's stop for a second and listen, hear, give each other grace where maybe the other person doesn't understand your point of view, or they've had different experiences. Like, how can we talk about this and still come out on the other side, like, loving each other? As Jennifer Lopez has told us, that love makes the world go round, people. I never thought I would ever say that in my life. I love it so much, though. And so how do we do that? And I wish there was a little bit more, because I think there's just such a knee jerk to whatever people hashtag on Facebook or in their articles or whatever it is that they're posting, and we automatically assume stuff about them. And I do it too. And I'm like, oh, this guy. And I'm like, no, you know what? Stop. No, there's got to be room for that. And I think there just isn't right now in these conversations. And I think the only way to, be able to have some more openness is to allow us to make mistakes with each other in the conversations that we have. Because if you don't, then you're never going to ever have a perfect one. You're never going to have a perfect opinion or a perfect way to solve something. You're not. That's just impossible. And so we have to be able to know that and be okay with that and work towards it together.
Exactly. I mean, that's always sort of my thing, is that, the journey that I've taken and probably that you've taken over the past decade or whatever has brought us a long way in terms of the way that we think about things. Yeah. And you can't know until you know, and nobody is going to sarcasm you into knowing. Nobody is going to get you into knowing things like that. And I'm not saying that we need to treat like a KKK member the same way that we, treat someone who's, ideologically aligned with ourselves. Like some people clearly have chosen hate, and that's where they stand, But at the same time, when you have people who have very strongly held beliefs, but maybe they aren't based on, having experiences with people who are unlike them and things like that, they're so far into their own worldview and are so kind of looking at their own ideology, then it's like we need to have grace with those people. And maybe we're wrong on some things, and maybe they're wrong on some things, but to be able to, hold that kind of discourse, I think is so important, and hear each other. And, that's really what it comes down to me, is being like, it's really easy to hashtag something sarcastic or things like that. And and there's value in that. Sometimes we need to vent it, like, I always have like friends and groups and things like that I'm like, ooh, this douchebag in. But, when at the end of the day, that's not what my public profile looks like on Facebook or things like that, because I want to facilitate a discussion. I'll rant in the right place, but I want to, promote a dialogue with people that if they are open to change, then let's talk about changing it. And I'm open to hearing you as well, and conceding that maybe sometimes I'm being the douchebag. That happens, that is the way our world works.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, everyone, be excellent to each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. You guys, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for putting up with some of our technical glitches. Sorry that they struggle. We're working on it for next week, hopefully. We'll have a little bit of a plan. But in the meantime, be sure to follow us and rate and review us on iTunes. Check us out on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us all there at Electric Fan Cave. We'll be posting this with the links, obviously, on the blog at electricfeast.com. So make sure you check that out as well. And join us back next week. And we're excited to talk about whatever new things are going to be happening. And you'll be very
Ghostbusters.
You'll be able to hear our Ghostbusters adventure. So maybe we will get you some pictures and stuff in the meantime, especially from our fancy theater. So that is for sure. So anyway, until next time, I'm Kristen Lotterow.
I'm Corrigan Mon.
Take it easy, kids.
Peace out, everybody.